Hello Internet. Today we have this EVGA GPU that's labeled 3090. Not so sure what's so vaggy about it, but the customer said,
and I heard a solid between a screech and a whistle,
that the third fan does not work. Makes me wonder, given the fact that my repair prices are flat rate,
$500.
Last month it was 100.
Yeah, well, inflation.
regardless of what the problem is, plus of course parts and pads and whatnot, how fast you want it to get fixed. If I replace a tiny resistor on the board, it's the same price as if I had to take the core and the memory and move it over to another board, solder a whole bunch of resistors, transistors, same price. So that keeps a lot of people happy. On the other hand, if I end up fixing this by not touching the board with a soldering iron, some people are going to be very, very upset. And those people can kiss my black mouse. So let's turn this thing on. All fans are going crazy. So when the guy said the right fan does not work, he lied. Because we have every single fan not working properly. And it makes me wonder why. Basically, it looks like we're gonna have to touch this thing with a soldering iron after all. A big disappointment. Let's have a look at the GPUs, see what it says. It makes me wonder if they flashed this GPU with a 3090 Ti BIOS. Looks like they did not.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Everything is looking okay, with the exception of 125 degrees on one of the driver MOSFETs. That probably explains everything, but it could also be false information. Either way, I'm gonna go ahead and reset everything in the Precision X just to be sure. And it looks like if this is correct, it's basically going into a thermal protection, but we'll see. And it also not registering any RPM, as you can see here. There's 0% on the fan speeds, 0 RPM anywhere, so not exactly sure what's going on. It only registers the last fan, so everything is default, 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 default. I don't know if you need to default just one tab or every single one of them, but doesn't matter, nothing changed. Okay, let's shut this thing down, take it apart, and figure out what's going on. One way to identify such problem would be simply by powering the GPU using my DIY GPU doctor. So if we flip on the switch, 2.5 amps is okay, and all of a sudden we're pulling 3.5 almost. I don't know, that could possibly be due to the fans blasting at 100% or maybe 200%, who knows. Either way, we need to take this thing apart and see what's inside. And before I lose my mind continuing with disassembling this thing, allow me to note that the screws that are here, here, and here are not from here.
What? That can't be true, but it is.
They're from somewhere else, and they don't even fit them holes. So, and the nuts obviously are bigger, so we're gonna have to ditch these and use proper screws in here. And it also looks like somebody tried to either machine or mill this thing, because there's like either screws were driven into the panel, or I have no idea. I can't really wrap my head around what's going on in here, to be honest. Just a lot of damage on the backplate for no reason. I mean, why, how, or when would you damage the board like that? I have no clue. Okay, one more screw. There we go. Okay, so at the very least we have all them pads. That's good. We're gonna be throwing them away anyway. I do not trust another man's pads. Screws are wrong. They go too far, applying too much tension, creating all sorts of problems. Who cares? We'll just send it to Tony. He'll fix it. Doesn't matter what we do to it. Okay, so here comes that. I can already see stacking of pads. That's probably one of the most genius things a human being can do. Which isn't that big of a deal. The only problem is stacking incorrect size pads. So I'm gonna have to redo all these pads because I do not trust another man's pads, just like I do not trust another man's balls. So if anybody had been reballing anything in here, we're gonna have to remove it and put a set of our own balls on there. Alright, let's I'm gonna go clean this up and then we'll look around the board, see what we can find. When the problem is with a third fan, it almost always comes from this chip loaded with EVGA firmware. So, but we've reset that to default. Nothing has changed. The third fan did stop spinning at 300,000%, whereas the other two continued on full blast. Let's power the board and see if any of the driver MOSFETs are glowing, triggering the temperature protection on the circuit somewhere, hard to say, and that subsequently triggers the fans to go on 100% blast. 5 degrees, I believe, on one of the memory MOSFETs. I don't know. And I'm not really seeing anything abnormal here, to be honest. So we got memory here, memory here, memory there, and a memory here. So everything is looking good. Yet, somehow, this thing is reading 125 degrees. Why? I do not know. So I'm gonna have to do some visual inspection. You see, what complicates this repair is that, well, for one, I don't know exactly how does this GPU monitors for temperatures. I don't know how it does it, because we have no schematics, we have no board view for any kind of EVGA boards, and so the best that we can do is to find something that's similar. Problem is, those are EVGA specific stuff that do not exist, as far as I'm concerned, on any other GPU, unless of course maybe different, generation and whatnot. So specifically NVIDIA. So how do I go about figuring out what's what? No idea. I'm gonna have to start with the visual inspection first, then we're gonna start poking around every single face, see which one of them is not behaving properly. Then we can probably go ahead and measure each TMON pin on each driver MOSFET, since we don't know how many of them are in what particular group. Then maybe we'll be able to narrow down at the very least a group of which contains a MOSFET that reports incorrect reading. But I don't know, just a lot of theories, one step at a time. Let's do the visuals first. Alright, so I didn't see anything. My visual inspection confirmed, or at the very least at first, nothing wrong. So, but when we check the PWM signal on both of these fans, we see exactly the same thing that we see with the fans. And that is, if I can get that pin there, see right there, the signal pulses are spreading further apart as the fans speeding up, so or causing the fan to speed up, and then that will eventually translate into the tachometer pin if the fans were connected. So every single power stage I also checked, nothing seems to be wrong with it. I could suspect that the core NV VDD controller or the MS VDD controller or even the memory controller is triggering. It probably makes some sense to start replacing, I think it's this one here for the memory. And let's see if I can either replace this or have a look around, and maybe I'll find something else before I start replacing it. Alright, so I've wasted enough time with this thing. I checked absolutely everything that I possibly could. I disconnected all of the temperature monitoring resistors to potentially fix the problem, after later discovering that that particular temperature does not refer to any of the driver MOSFETs, power stages, or anything but the memory. And as it turns out, according to the other techs that I've consulted this with on my Discord server, they're saying that there's some kind of a resistor near some of the memory chips or somewhere around the board, around the memory chips, that are monitoring those 3 memory temperatures, and those values are reflected by this chip. However, what's interesting is that I've confirmed that the PWM and the tachometer pin are both reading good according to the oscilloscope, but the GPU-Z shows us 0 on all of them. So to me, that's almost a good 90-95% problem with the core, because the 2 fans are controlled by the core and only the 3rd fan is controlled by this chip here. So I'm thinking, given the fact that we had incorrect thermal pads on this board, the board may have been flexed and we end up having some kind of a cracked solder joint under the core. So instead of wasting hours and potentially days trying to figure out how this chip is able to monitor the temperatures of the memory in 3 different places, where those places are, and how this whole thing works, which is going to be nearly impossible given the fact that we have no board views and no schematics from the EVGA. Thank you very much. I'm glad you died, and I hope you stay dead, so that way we won't have to deal with this headache in the future. All I have left now is to reball the core and hope for the best. So let's do that and see if anything changes. Okay, so I've done with the reball, and it would still do the exact same thing. I started experimenting with nonsense as usual when it comes to EVGA. The only way to fix anything is to do nonsense, stupid things. And I replaced this MOSFET here. It's linked to both of the tachometer pins. So thinking that this thing has nothing to do with controlling these 2 fans, and only responsible for controlling this fan, I thought that might be faulty. Replace that, no change. The U-gate, no change. Then this chip here, I don't know exactly what this chip is, but it does seem to have something to do with the tachometer pins. And since I wasn't getting any reading on a tachometer inside of the GPU-Z, I thought that it would make sense to replace this. Replace that, nothing changed. So nothing changed until I replaced this stupid chip. It didn't seem like it helped at first, but then I turned on the Precision X, it reflashed the chip, and after that, it worked. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and power this thing on. I'll show you that it is indeed working, and it's not working anymore. I don't know why that is. Let me see what happens if I launch Precision X one more time, because the fan is at 100% right now. But once that Precision X had flashed the firmware, things got fixed. Yeah, but right now it doesn't seem like it was fixed. So let's see. 0C, 0C. Yeah, the ICX isn't even working properly, seems. Maybe I need to reinstall drivers. I don't know. So let's see if we can do something with the fans. Put them on 0. Yeah, nothing changes in here. So it's gonna go default. This could potentially be a driver issue, so I'm gonna go ahead and change the slot. Alright, so drivers reinstalled. Let's look at the GPU-Z, and it's not reading anything. The fan is still at a 100%. Let's see what the Precision X does. Yeah, everything is still the same, and it's not flashing the firmware, so given the fact that I have seen the RPM and the fan speed percentage before I rebooted the computer, to me, that tells me that there's no issue with the connection between the fans, PWM and RPM pins with the core. So all the communications are going back and forth as expected. As far as everything else goes, I don't see any other problems other than this suspiciously looking memory temperature that originates I don't know where. Kind of wonder if I can tinker with the EVGA MCU tool. Let's see what we can just fan curves and whatnot. So yeah, it's not reading for whatever reason. Oh, I see. Look at this. So MEM1, so that resistor could actually be here. That resistor for the MEM1 that we're seeing here, this MEM1 125C, so it could be in here if this layout is correct. So maybe it's worth looking at it. Okay, I'm trying to use the EVGA MCU tool that would force flash the chip. See what happens. I do not know if I selected the correct version or any of that. It does not come with the manual, and there's no explanation anywhere which version to select and which one of these things to select here. So okay, so now it tells me to launch Precision X. Let's see what the GPU-Z says. And the fan is working. Well, it's actually, hold on a sec. Let me see what the afterburner says. Yep, the afterburner. Yes, the afterburner is now controlling the fan speed. As you can see, the RPM is working. So we're clearly having some issues with the firmware. So it could be that the BIOS on this board is not correct. Seems to be correct. Unless there's an issue with the BIOS that forces the Precision X1 to flash incorrect firmware to the MCU, thus giving us problems. But regardless, we're still trying to figure out why MEM1 is reporting 125 degrees, and where is this mysterious resistor that affects this reading is what I want to know. But I don't care, so I'm gonna go ahead and just do this. We're gonna restart. So right now we're not reading any RPMs. I'm gonna close this, default everything out, or maybe we can increase the fans and see what they do. Okay, so it says 100%. They are okay. Yeah, the RPM is working. Okay, so default, save, close. Let's reboot, see if that actually updated the MCU correctly this time. Who knows? These EVGA cards, every time there's a problem with LEDs or the fan controls, it's always a nightmare. Alright, so far so good. The fan is not spinning, so let's open up the GPU-Z and we're gonna run some Heaven. Give it a light load, see what changes. So everything right now stays at 0. Let's see what happens when we start getting warmed up. Should be at 40-60. There we go. It's finally doing its thing. Perfect. So the fan is spinning and the RPMs were reading. Good. And I would imagine the last fan also works. There we go. It starts to read the RPMs, as you can see here. So we're good. And that now you see why now you see why my repair costs are flat rate. And there you have it. Now you know why I don't like these cards. Why I think EVGA suck. You know, the very least what EVGA could have done when they went out of business is to release the Epstein files. What I mean is board views and schematics and maybe some documentation. I mean, you're out of business. Who cares? It's not like somebody's gonna copy you or something. I mean, I don't know. I want to know what you guys think about this. I think EVGA is just not cool. Okay, so that's fixed, but we're still having issues with the 125 degrees reporting on there. I could ignore that, or I could figure out what's in this general area, because it was kind of pointing in here for the M1, and when I flipped the board, the only difference that I saw across the rest of the 3090s are the two resistors that are in this corner. So I'm gonna go and take measurements of these resistors that are on a 3080 Ti. I would imagine they would be exactly the same, so 14K, and this one is almost 14K in circuit, mind you. So what about here? The board is warmer, so probably okay. And this one here, 32. Now that's an odd reading. So is it normal? I have no idea. I wonder if I have a 3090 donor board somewhere. Yes, here. We have a 3090 donor board that we can check and see what kind of reading we get on this resistor. 11, 13, and in here, no, I think it's about right. 12. I mean, we can replace it and see what happens. This one here is a bit sketchy. 34, 15, 16. I don't know. I'm just gonna go and replace them both and see if that changes anything. Probably be the easiest thing to do. And probably smartest thing to do too, because this resistor here looks like it's knocked off. Even cracked, maybe. Let's see if we can detach that. But I'm gonna replace them both anyway, just to be sure. Oh yeah. Look, it's cracked in half. Ah, you cheeky bastard. I am glad that this happened, because we all learned something today. Alright, so that's definitely just that one resistor then, in that case. So let's go and put that in there, like that. And that should be it. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, the moment of truth. Did we defeat EVGA? There we go. We got it. We got him, ladies and gentlemen. EVGA 0, Northwest Repair 1. That's right, I won again. I don't like to call myself persistent. I think it's just being stubborn. I want to get to the bottom of this, and I don't care how many bodies I have to lay into the ground on the way there. And even if one of those bodies is my own. And on top of that, we all learned something. We learned that the EVGA software cannot properly flash its own MCU. So we have to resort to a third-party software to do the job for us, and I hope to never see a problem like this again. So I'm gonna put this thing back together, apply some fresh pads, run some tests, give the customer good news, and hopefully this was educating. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.